Hi everyone. So, first of all, some housekeeping. So, what I've decided now, it's been quite a few months. I think we started Patreon in October, and I've decided that as of now, I still need to find the switch, but I am going to put the switch on that new patrons will have access only to the new material, because I think it's not fair. Now some of you have been patrons from many months, and so that the new people coming in can see the whole thing from the beginning. I think it's not fair at all. Also, I think there are some little safety issues and everything. So I think it's I will have now the videos available. No, the things available only for people as they join. At the time as they join. Second, Patreon is updating. So finally, I don't know if you've noticed, maybe not on your side, but on my side, it's a very rough software application, and they updated. It's totally not like Instagram, where you have flexibility and you can go very fast and things and that, including uploading videos. It takes forever because I need to upload it on YouTube, and it takes forever. I don't want to diminish because sometimes I show things. I don't want to diminish the definition, the resolution, and etc. So it's kind of weird, and I have to unlock my phone during that whole time, which is very dangerous. So anyway, Patreon is updating. The other thing, I'm also going to switch now so listen carefully, for the eau de fresh. I am going to switch. I've announced it online, and as of July, I will go to 3 videos a week. Actually, it impacts everybody because everybody could see all these videos. So I am going to go from 4 videos to 3 videos. The rest, question and answer, Rhino mail and everything, because it's a lot. My videos are very long. I've compared, I've looked. Even Patreon suggests that we post twice a month. I was posting 4, so for now I'm going to switch to 3. I think for the $5 fee per month, 3 videos that are very long, very substantial. I give a lot of information. Voilà. But also I'm going to stop doing videos that are 30 minutes or even 20 minutes. I think it's too long, also too long for me. It's very involving, and I've been doing a lot for the industry. You're going to see. So I'm going to talk a little bit more. In the German CD video, I mentioned a few things already. So today we're going to talk about this book and why it's important, because in the actions that I'm doing further, I want to expose also with more details or with more facts some scandals that I find have been happening in the industry. Some of them have been happening since the beginning of time. Some of them have been happening. You remember when Napoleon told the pharmacists to disclose what they had in their creams and in their elixirs, because it was a lot of charlatanism and a lot of snake oil, as they say in English. The perfumers freaked out and got away from the pharmacy guild and created their own guild, so that they did not have to disclose their formula, which is fine because we don't have copyright. So you will see my actions are 3 or 4-fold, but one is about, I want now brands and us perfumers, when we talk a lot about 2 or 3 ingredients in a formula, that we disclose them, so that the public knows that if I talk about jasmine from India, there is at least 0.5-1-2% jasmine in the formula, not 0.1, 0.2. You barely smell it. I have to tell you 0.2%. And the worst is when you have 0.02, just to say it's in there. And I've been in meetings, I've seen that in perfumes. I've been in meetings when this is discussed, and I know it's still being done. And this is not okay. So remember this. Some companies are going to say, thanks to us, AFF Hermès Givaudan are buying 1 ton or 6 tons of jasmine in India. Well, probably 1 ton of jasmine in India. Well, but split it among millions of bottles. So What I'm saying, oh, you're buying 1 ton, that guess what? They could supply to you 10 tons. They're ready to produce, the farmers. So instead of 0.02, I want you to put 0.5, 1 or 2. Otherwise, it's a joke, because the French prices are as if you had a lot of jasmine, but it's mostly benzyl acetate. I know or you have to be really creative. But when you smell a soup, and that's my other problem is plagiarism, you make a copy, you put almost 0 jasmine, you sell that like it's a new creation and full of jasmine, and yet the farmers could produce much, much more to help their families, and you could stop plagiarism. So all this is going to be explained even more. Bon. You will see there are some articles that to come out, and then once the perfumeryethics.org goes public, which I've asked now to open, I'll explain that. I'll do a video about that, and I'll do a video about the double page of WPC, and I'll do download the app. By the way, the WPC app, anywhere in the world, it's free. You should download it. You will see we have a little banner on it, and I will explain the background and vision text that I wrote for this perfumeryethics.org website, and I'm quite proud of that text. And let's see what it does. In the meantime, you have this book. Some of you may have read that book. I'll give some of my conclusions, and also I'll talk about a little bit about my work with Pierre Bourdon. I mean my work, no, my training, I'll explain. But why is this book extremely important? So Gabe is a gentleman, a tall, white gentleman, male, heterosexual, Jewish. And he lives right here on 24th Street. He interviewed, their whole name, I think it's more than 40 or more than 50 perfumers. Most of them you will know. So like real perfumers that are deep down in the fragrance industry. So a few niche perfumers, but a lot of commercial, hardcore commercial perfumers that create all these big brands and these big volumes that are out there, for which I'm saying now it's enough. Some is a bit, the perfumer knows very well that they shouldn't be doing that. Some perfumers, that's what they learn at school, that if you want to win a fragrance, you have to start from a GC. This is true, huh? This is true. Some perfumers are taught that's the only way you can actually win a project. And then, but it's mostly because of the client, because of the whole setup and the middle people, etc., etc. So I say in my text, leave the perfumers alone and leave the fragrance houses alone. Is the system after that that is not okay. With middle people, packagers, distributors, the stores, it's a catastrophe. So now that book, Gabe, before, Gabe, first of all, is an investigative journalist. Gabe doesn't care if he's invited to the next Dior launch or to the next whatever launch, okay? Or Victoria's Secret fashion show, because you have that too. And people want to go to the fashion show to see the models of Victoria's Secret. So when you know that Victoria's Secret is extremely cheap what they put in a bottle, when you know that they do a lot of copies, how many angels they have in there, and Narciso Rodriguez and the likes, I've always refused to work for them. You have to know. But one day we'll discuss all this. So, so this book before that was about boxing in Philadelphia, the boxing scene. So you have to be very clean and very convincing and very honest when you talk in the boxing scene to get all the facts and everything. And it's with the same honesty and candidness, that he that he went and interviewed all these perfumers. At times you had to be approved by the PR of the company, as he explained, and at times you reach the perfumers directly. So the book for me is very interesting for 3 things. One, the main thing is the story about Creed and the scandal about Creed. So that's the thread, if you wish. Which, to tell you the truth, I have not read all the pages about that, because it's a scandal. Once you've read some pages, you're like, oh my God, and then, well, but that's the thread, if you wish. That's the movie. But although it's a real movie and it's really terrible, how could you make people believe in an industry on and on and on that you've been like a 7th generation perfumer? You created for all the kings and queens on this planet, and you didn't never create it for the queens and queens on the planet. You're not even a perfumer yourself, and you're saying you're 7th generation. So some people knew in the industry. Some people did not know. A lot of things are very well known. When I'm explaining here, you don't have to scratch a lot. It's not like it's very well known. So that's the thread. Why it's even more interesting, this book I find, is for two things. One is a description of the fragrance industry, because now you have officially, by an investigative journalist who is checking all his facts and who interviewed 40, 50 perfumers. So that's the truth, what's in there. So now it's exposed very well how L'Oreal develops or get those fragrances in those bottles, how plagiarism is very well done, how softwares are, so what I did not know, for instance, in software, is that the software at Givaudan is called the Sphinx. And this is the weirdest thing, because the software at another fragrance company is called the Phoenix, and the software at another fragrance company is called Pegasus. So why? It's really weird. Can you imagine that the software at 3 pharmaceutical companies would have almost the same name? It's kind of weird. Everything, voilà. So the industry is really, really, really weird. I'll tell you another thing. I don't know if you've noticed that Firmenich has just changed names, and they are called now DSM Firmenich. Good for them. But what I find really weird is, 1 year, 2 years ago, IFF merged with DuPont, which is a chemical company, but they merged with the nutrition, bioscience branch of DuPont. So now IFF is an $11 billion company, and I think they're like bigger than Coty. And they have 4 departments. So perfumery now at IFF is this small thing, and then the rest is much bigger. Flavors is super huge. And then you have nutrition, and then you have actives, and you have wellness, with actives and stuff, and vitamins and more. Guess what? Just last month, Firmenich announces they do exactly the same with a Swiss company. So DuPont is American, and Firmenich does exactly the same with a Swiss company. Now Firmenich has 4 departments: nutrition, wellness, bioscience, health, and fragrances still. So say the fragrance division is smaller. It's very weird that they copy each other, even in the types of structure and the types of. Simrise keeps on talking about actives for the skin, for the cosmetic industry, so the fragrance priority is going down. I explained that in one of the texts that is going to be published. So I'm a bit worried, or it means there will be some companies that will be more pointed just for olfaction and just for perfumery, because we have things that are just for us. And we have nothing to do with nutrition, and we have nothing. Nutrition is just your body, the plumbing in your body, and then we have nothing to do with cosmetic actives. This is visual and touch. Cosmetic is visual and touch. It has nothing to do with olfaction. It's not different know-how. I've known nothing but cosmetic. Very different know-how. Like Sony is not launching a new anti-wrinkle cream or an active that is anti-aging. So because you want to look good in the clubs when you listen to music, it's the same. We think that cosmetic goes with olfaction. No. It's 2 different things. I respect the cosmetic chemists, but we are 2 different know-how, and so it's a very weird thing, this setup. Now back to this book. So for instance, read page 11 to 24. Page 11 to 24. And then there are also some other pages about Chanel. How I find this a bit disturbing, a lot disturbing. And so Chanel was a Nazi spy. He has her Nazi matricule number. She had English name as a cover-up name, as a spy. And so it was not just a collaborator, she was a Nazi spy. And Chanel does not deny it. They say everybody did some stuff during the war. Well, she, by the way, she also wrote how her company was owned by Jewish people, and as a white person, she should get her company back, etc. She wrote that to the French government, which thankfully did not bid. So the company, the Chanel company, and I think that's why it's covered up, still owned by this Jewish. Now it's two brothers. It was, she was going bankrupt in 24. She was going bankrupt, and she signed with Mr. Wertheimer, Pierre Wertheimer, the father of the two brothers of today, and a Jewish person. And I think she got, that's what they say here or somewhere, 10% of her company, and he saved her company. And I think because the company is still owned by Jewish people, two brothers, the Wertheimers, I think that's why they toned this down. But I think it's still kind of disruptive that they did not change that in some ways, but bon, since they are Jewish themselves, I guess it's okay, and they accept that. They fled to America, and then they came back after the war and kept the ownership of the company. But you learn all this in there. And then the other, so you have the thread about the creed, you have the setup of the industry, where you learn actually how the industry functions on certain principles that are totally outdated, and some are scandalous. Or when you create for L'Oreal, you don't know for which brand you create, maybe for Armani, maybe for Diesel, maybe for Yves Saint Laurent, you create 3 or 4 years before, has nothing to do with their fashion. And again, at L'Oreal, I can tell you, the prices are very low, so whatever you put in there, it's very small quantity, not whatever, but they like to make you believe there is this and that, but you should know. And so I will show GCs, and people can decide from the GCs what's in these fragrances. And then you have the story about Pierre Bourdon. So that is also the fascinating thing. So here you have the story of an excellent perfumer, obviously, and extremely brainiac, extremely intellectual, and who is not making copies. And something I find fascinating about Pierre is that he does start with some schemes that exist. Scheme in a good way, a schema, we say in French, not a weird scheme, not a robbing scheme, but a structure. So he starts with structures, but he modifies them. So it's like, that's not a Pierre Bourdon, but people don't know, but Opium, which is very European fragrance, actually came from Youth Dew, an American fragrance. So, but you see, I would not say that Opium is a copy of Youth Dew, okay? Should it be mentioned? I don't know, this is more complicated. I'm talking like copies, like the Fierce and the Legend by Montblanc, like the lovely Sarah Jessica Parker and Nassau Rodriguez, and these are copies. Pleasures has a lot of babies. Chrome and CK1. So Chrome is a copy of CK1. Yes, modified this way, that way, but this is here we're talking studying structures, and from a structure building another one that is different and is another story, another level. And so Pierre is very good at that. Or even after the fact, he can see how he comes. And then he has a mastery of ingredient that is quite fascinating, and he makes things that really, really nice. I think I would say Dominique Ropion has that. Carlos, but Carlos is yet another style. But there's a certain refinement, dosage. Now Pierre, he puts in the refinement always some large dosages of things that were not expected. So that's different from some other perfumers, but then he works them so well that it's just part of the whole refinement. So it doesn't stick out. It's not a vin vert. It's really, really beautiful. So you could, So of course, the cool water. So maybe one day I'll talk a little bit more about these fragrances, because some I had to create when I spent twice 2 weeks with Pierre. As a trainee, not for him, but just a trainee to see if I liked fine fragrances and everything. And so he made me recreate some of his fragrances and corrected his own formula. So maybe I'll discuss that a little bit further later. And then also further with this book about this third thread in that book, the Pierre Bourdon thread. Voilà. But I hope it convinces you. I don't have any stocks in that book or any royalties at all. No, but I think it's quite fascinating. It's rare that such a book comes out about the industry by an investigative journalist. someone with a lot of integrity. A lot of journalists have integrity, but it's just they write in a way that is they want to please the brand, you know, because they want to be invited by the brand again. So that twisted a lot about the Francis. Plus, they don't interview 40 perfumers, plus another like 40 managers. It's like more than 100 people from the industry that he interviewed over 1.5 years of COVID. So when people have nothing to do, talk on Zoom, visited. I know he came to my lab and visited, and other people. Voilà. Thank you so much.